And you can wait for somebody to
In
pop
Music
on,
Land.
and I will find the link.
In Music Land.
There you are.
In Music Land. In Music Land. Hello.
Share.
Out there. In Music Land. It's all very exciting to be here. Another day.
Send it.
In the land.
Send it to
Of the living.
Godwin.
In the lands. Hello.
There's the live link.
Hello. 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 Hello.
There.
Just waiting for people to get on.
Oh my God.
As we are waiting for people to get on. Oh, my number one fan, Neo, the dog. Bless his heart. Hello, everybody. I'm Cherina Williams, speech and language pathologist. And we're just going to wait for some people to jump on. And I am here to answer all of your parenting questions, connecting, growing, and hello there. And doing great things together. I don't know if you guys could hear my racket in the background. 5 minutes ago, that guy was wailing because he hurt himself, and you would never know that he is doing just fine right now. Doing just fine. So, we will get this party started as people jump on, as this is also exciting. So, I ran across an article that I wanted to talk about today as people are jumping on, because this one hit home to me. I always talk about this, and funny enough, even my first podcast was about this topic, and that is toddlers and screen time. And my philosophy is, and I don't want the tomato face, that if you have a toddler, then they probably do not need to have have much screen time, especially for children who are language delayed, but even those who are not. And so it's not just me saying it. So my verdict was that if you can avoid it, at all costs, don't give toddlers screen time. But if you do give them screen time, and what I mean by screen time is tablets, phone, TV, if you are giving them that screen time, then maybe be a part of it so you can make it an interactive moment. And they are, engaging with you, and you can take that as a time to interact with them and teach them language and kind of discuss, because at that toddler age, that 18 to 36 months, they're really starting to build up their language skills and their social skills. And so you want to make sure that you are nurturing and cultivating that. So this is what the article says, nevertheless, and it's not from me. This is not me. I didn't write this article. This is somebody else's stuff. So it says that toddlers who spend lengthy amounts of time in front of screens may be more prone to inactivity as they age. So that tells us that, or what they did, that children who are age 2 to 3, who spend 3 or more hours watching tablets, TVs, or iPads, anything along that line, anything that's media related, they, by the age of 5 or 6 years old, have a decreased likelihood of engaging in not just light, hi there, but any kind of physical activity. So toddlers who are watching 3 or more hours of TV, tablets, iPads, anything that's media related, they're finding that they are not engaging in physical activity. That's insane. And so it wasn't just one study done. One came from the Lancet Child and Adolescent Health, and then the other came from researchers at National University of Singapore. And this wasn't just like a few children, it was 500 children that they looked at. And when they were analyzing these kiddos to really determine, is there an impact on kids' a level of physical activity? Um, if they are watching these tablets, they did like questionnaires. So they followed their daily screen time. They followed their physical. They followed their sleep behaviors, and they like screened these parents and found that in the end, kiddos who were watching this TV really did become less active versus kiddos who did not watch as much screen time. So the verdict's out, guys. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that, and your stance on technology, or even how you're using technology, because I thought that that was really interesting. Again, that was like my first podcast episode on I've Got This Kid, kids and technology, and if we should even be allowing kids to listen or watch technology on their own. Should they have access to these tablets? My verdict is for the little ones, probably not at all. Maybe as they get older, then you can barter something, maybe have a time limit, and just kind of go from there, because we need our kiddos being physical. We need them being active. We need them being healthy. And screen time doesn't necessarily always give you that. So that is the first article. As soon as you guys start asking questions, then I will stop talking about these articles, but they interest me. The inner nerd in me wants to know what's going on, what these researchers are finding, and I love delivering that information to you guys, so you guys as parents can make educated decisions, and at least know what's available, what's considered normal, what's considered not normal, what's considered okay by industry standards, what's not considered okay by industry standards, and like if you are giving your kiddo technology time, just again make sure that you are engaging with them during that time. And in our house, we let our kiddos have a question just came through. What age do you consider little ones? I would say I would not give them, that's a great question. I would not give technology time a whole lot of consideration until after 36 months. And what I mean by that is not just allowing a kiddo to just have free reign over the tablet. And you see it everywhere. And 36 months, is 3 years. And so you see it everywhere where you're going in the store and the child has their tablet or the phone, or maybe in the home, they're kind of to themselves and interacting with this device. We want to really make sure that we're not just kind of letting them do their own thing with the device, but that we're being intentional and that we're sitting down with them and kind of discussing, what are you watching? Or if it's a nursery rhyme or a sing song kind of thing. I know Baby Shark is like the new thing. If it's something along those lines, then you want to be there to engage with them, because not only are you having the verbal engagement, you're also having the nonverbal engagement, to where like they're picking up on your facial expressions when you're excited, right? If you're twinkle, twinkle, little star, then they can wait for it. Or if it's like pop goes the weasel, then they can pick up on those expressions with you. And I know like characters like Dora, they have like different intonations, and so like those are things that you can do with them and teach them and make it more of an interactive thing, to where they're not just kind of off to themselves and having this screen and you're off to yourself and you kind of have your screen. So my recommendation is that 36 months or younger, or 3 years old or younger, like you really need to be a part of that. And dare I say, even older, after 36 months, it should still be a little bit interactive, because they're still learning. They're still picking up on things, but toddler age is usually considered 36 months, or 18 to 36 months, that age range. But I would still, again, be a part of that, just to kind of see what they're into and what they're getting into. And you can always use that as an opportunity to build language, even if they are not language delayed. You can still build their language even more. And a question just came through. Our 5-month-old is loud. Describe loud. Should we be concerned? Not at 5 months. Just because I think at 5 months, the baby is still like learning how to use their voice. They're learning how to they're starting to learn how to formulate those sounds, and they're formulating those vowels, and they're starting to get their sound repertoire together. So they're starting to get that in order. So I would say I wouldn't be concerned if he's loud or if she's loud. I would simply just tell the neighbors, unless like the neighbors are hearing it and they're kind of like, what is going on? Let's see. Oh, okay. You added more. He howls and growls and makes sounds, but it's loud. It's very loud. Oh, it's loud. It's really loud. Okay. Unless it's bothering the neighbors, then I would just kind of leave him be. Make sounds back at him. If he's get in his face and start talking back to him, blah 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 to you, and see if you can make it a conversation. That's fun. That's a fun age. You still got control of stuff 5 months. You don't have sleep, but you do get to have fun. You still got control. Like you can swallow them and do all kinds of good stuff that we can't do when they're big and they don't smell like cookies anymore. So I would definitely like get in there and talk back to him. Like if it's 2 a.m., I mean, that's a little bit different. I understand. But if it's like, the middle of the day and he's just talking, then let him be. I know that everybody's at home right now. And if you're working from home and it's starting to like impact your work life schedule, get some noise canceling earphones. If you have some earphones at home, just plug those bad boys in. As long as he's safe and you have your eyes on him and you know that everything is okay with him, I don't see why not. I would do that. I would totally do that. Like it's keeping your peace of mind as you're in the house. Again, especially if it's getting in the way of like you being able to work or you being able to do your duties. But even if it's not getting in the way of your work and you just don't want to hear it anymore and you've already done like your vocal play with him, then by all means put on some earphones and let that man talk. Let him be free. I hope that answers your question. But that's cute. That's fun. 5 months is fun. So I came across another article, and again, as soon as you guys start sending in more questions, I'm here. I will continue to answer your questions. I also saw another article, and again, this is out of the ASHA Leader, and they found that girls who get autism diagnosis, they're diagnosed later than little boys, which means that treatment is delayed. And funny enough, about a year or so ago, I did a little bit of research on that. And I found that researchers pretty much found the same thing. And the why behind that is because the standards or the criteria that they look at, it's mainly based on boys. And so when they were originally researching what this looked like the characteristics or the dynamics of autism, like if you have autism, this is what we're looking for to determine whether or not you have this diagnosis. They based it on boys, not on girls. So it's really interesting because when they're looking to diagnose and they're looking at the criteria, they're basing it on characteristics of boys, not on girls, which is unfortunate for our little girls because, a year and a half, I think they said that treatment was delayed or diagnosis is a year and a half later than for girls than it is with boys. So that means like a year and a half that the little girls aren't being diagnosed, and that means a year and a half that they're not receiving that treatment, which is a big deal. So I think researchers are going to start having to find ways to pay a little bit more attention. But when I was looking it up, what I found was that girls are usually a little bit more ahead of the game, and so they're able to imitate a lot better than boys are able to do. And so they end up imitating what they see same age peers doing. And it's not until they get school age where language becomes a little bit more complex that they are no longer able to like imitate. And so a lot of times they end up having like different behaviors or different habits, different things that are injurious behaviors. And it ends up impacting their ability to thrive. And so that's how they end up getting the diagnosis much later. And so they found that like anorexia and autism for girls go hand in hand a lot of times for the older girls because they haven't been diagnosed and they feel like something's wrong with them because they're not relating to their same age peers and they had all that time kind of imitating and modeling. And so it's really interesting that they are finding this. And another question just came through. Oh, and it's related to this. Isn't it true that boys are active anyway? Do you feel that boys are sometimes diagnosed too early or misdiagnosed at times? Absolutely. Thank you for that question. I do feel that there is a little bit of bias in the testing, and that it depends on the background of the evaluator. It also depends on parent reporting. This is why I come to you guys, parents, because I firmly believe that it is extremely important for you guys to know your child and to understand your child. And so when you're going into these meetings, when you have concerns, you are like, you have your PhD in your child. And what I mean by you have your PhD in understanding your child is that you know your child inside and out. And so when you're sitting across the table from these other people, yes, they have these degrees and this information behind them, but you also know your child, and you can report on your child, and you want to be able to report on your child in a way to where you're really educated and knowledgeable about what's going on. And so I think that that's one of the biggest factors, is that we're coming into these situations and we're expecting the professionals to give the diagnosis, but we're not always doing our due diligence. And it's not because you're a bad parent, it's just because you don't know what to expect. And so funny enough, in my podcast, in the Living With series, Living with Autism, one of my parents talk about that, how she had to really learn how to come to these meetings prepared, and knowing how to communicate to these professionals, and they had to go to multiple meetings, and so they had to like repeat a lot of the same things. And so, you know, the more that you know and the more that you understand your child, the more that you can bring to the table, then the more that they can do their part and kind of give you the information that you need. And so that really helps with the misdiagnosis. And so I always say, if it doesn't look right, if it doesn't feel right, and if it doesn't smell right, then you need to write it down. Just because I'd rather you ask a question than not ask and find out that something was going on all along. So going back to that question, are children diagnosed too early or misdiagnosed? Absolutely, because of that being one of the reasons. And then sometimes if professionals are also people too, right? And it doesn't invalidate their knowledge. It just means that everybody has a day, a good day, a bad day, an off day. And so the same grace that we have to show ourselves is the same grace that we have to show these people who are evaluating. And you can respectfully agree or disagree. You can always, if you do get a diagnosis that you don't agree with, you can always get a second opinion. If you get a diagnosis that you feel like, or you don't get the diagnosis that you think was there, but based on information, you can always wait, especially for that 18 to 36 month age range. You can always go back and get them reevaluated after 6 months just to find out if something else was going on, because that's like the time to where children are really making progress. And a kid at 18 months looks much different than they do at 24 months, at 36 months, at 42 months, at 48 months. And so you want to be extremely mindful about that. And that's why I always encourage for you to know and understand your kid like the back of your hand. Because again, when you're going to these pediatrician appointments, you're able to express to them your concerns. And I know that a lot of times when we go to these pediatrician visits, that they're only 5 minutes or less, and now they're on the screen because we're at home, and so they don't have the luxury of seeing things. But technology has come such a long way in the medical field that you can record what's happening in your house now and send it, like through our medical provider. We can record it and send it over. We can take pictures of things and send it over. And again, if it doesn't look right, feel right, smell right, we can go ahead and show them like, this is what we're seeing. Because a lot of times too, kiddos go to the doctor's office and they're like on best behavior, right? So it makes you look like a crazy person. And you're going in there with this information and they're like, I don't see what you're seeing. And that happens during these meetings too, to where diagnosis is taking place. If the child is on best behavior, if they're out of sorts, if you have video footage backing up the things that you're seeing, then the professionals can make an educated decision and can look at that footage and know like, okay, I see what you're talking about. Or they can even explain in a different way versus you just kind of explaining to them. It's another tool to get everybody on the same page. I hope that answers that question. Um, but boys are active, they're extremely active, and I guess the best way to leverage that is if their level of activity is getting in the way of their learning. If their level of activity is getting in the way of their learning, then we need to make some decisions, right? um, do we need to change environment? Do we need to provide more sensory breaks? Especially because now everybody's a homeschooler. To some level, I've heard different districts say different things. Like parents, you can kind of ease up on the curriculum, whereas other districts are like, you need to follow this plan. It just depends. Maybe, you need to build in more breaks into the day. Maybe you need to build in some sensory stuff. Um, I would say just use wisdom around that and just kind of find that balance. And now is the perfect time. Like, if you don't feel like you have your PhD in knowing your child, now is the perfect time to do so. And not from a place of like, oh my gosh, we're in this house together. Like, oh my gosh, this is too much. But from a genuine place of, let me just start sitting down and spending some time with you and just kind of looking at what's going on without any intentions on anything, but just to hang out. Everything is virtual. Are online play groups okay with regards to screen time? Yeah, I sure would. I would. Yep. I don't see why not. It depends on the age of your child as well. That's going to play a big part into it. Like, if there are 5 infants on screen time, they're probably not going to get much out of that. But if it is 5, 2-year olds or 5 36 month old, then they probably will get something out of that, maybe a little bit more. Now, they might not stay long. Don't be offended if it's an hour in and they're like done, or 20 minutes in and they're done. But they might be excited enough to see their peers and to know like their peers are still around, because you have to keep in mind, like, this is all new. Oh, that's a good question. Okay. Um, Give me more information about that, about the 3-year-old has done well on them. Um, so I say all that to say, like, don't be offended if the baby doesn't pay attention for the full, allotted time. For older kids, you kind of expect them to pay attention longer. You expect, the conversation to be a little bit longer. But again, because everything is so new, I know our babies have to be wondering, especially the little ones who don't kind of have an understanding as to like quarantine and what that looks like and having to stay in the house. You want to explain it as best as you can to them. But at the same time, maybe giving them some screen time with their friends so they know that their friends are still out there and their friends still exist, but we're just gonna, keep everybody safe right now. And I'm assuming, I'm looking at this next question. My 3-year-old has done well on them. I'm assuming your 3-year-old has done well on the evaluations. Um, his music class. Oh, on the script. Duh, on the online play groups. Okay. His music class has gone virtual. It's led by a teacher, and they sing and play instruments, dance, and go over music. No virtual play groups. Absolutely. My kiddos, they're 7 and 10, and they're doing violin virtually, and they love it. In fact, they also did a science class virtually through Lawrence Hall of Science. And parents out there, if you have kiddos who are old enough, Lawrence Hall of Science is giving free classes. They're doing free story time, and they're doing free science experiments. And it is fun. Like, the kids learned about the inner ear last week. And what else did they learn about? How sound is transmitted. And I was like, that's my world. Like, I came in and started talking. I was like, oh, you're learning about the cochlea? Oh, yeah. They were like, all right, we'll see you later. I was like, all right, I'm not offended. Not really. But that was time for me. And I knew that they were in good hands. But virtual play groups, if you haven't done a virtual play group at this point, that's okay. If you want to formulate one, especially if your kiddo is in preschool at this point, definitely formulate that virtual play group. And have them just hang out. If nothing else, like a good hello. Everything doesn't have to be so structured. And even in the classroom, like, parents, you guys are getting like a real feel for what life looks like, being with your child all day. But know that even within the school, kiddos are not always doing structured learning, especially depending on the preschool program it is. They're not always doing structured learning. There's times where there's some free learning going on, or some free play and some free, they're getting some freedoms. weaved in throughout the day. And so, setting up a virtual play group is not a bad idea, just to give them that space to see their friends, to say hi to their friends, if nothing else, especially depending on the age. Again, like if they're younger, don't expect them to hang out too long. Like, let's be reasonable. But if they're a little bit older, then absolutely, I don't see why not. And also, too, that does not contradict what I said about screen time habits. That's not the same. So don't be like, well, you just said screen time habits. I'm talking about like having your face in the tablet and off doing your own thing, and you're off doing your own thing. I'm talking about interaction, and that's interactive. So don't try that on me. So I hope that thank you for that input. I hope that kind of answered your question about virtual play groups, and just the idea that yes, we can be intentional in different ways. And think about it like this too, parents. There's like this new app called House Party, and my friends kind of hipped me to it. I am like totally technologically not savvy, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm not good at everything, and that's not my area, okay? And so I got hip to this house party thing, and it has been wonderful, especially socially isolating, and I don't get to see anybody or touch anybody and like give a hug or anything like that. But like, we got on house party and we played games and we did all kinds of fun stuff, and it was just wonderful. You love it too? Oh, we got to get on. Oh my gosh, I love that house party. Anyway, but we got on and played games, and it was totally healthy. So why can't the kids do the same thing? Right? So that's my point. Not me loving house party, even though I do love it. Don't get me wrong. But the kids should have that opportunity too. And maybe they're not playing games together unless they're, a little bit older. But for the younger ones, I don't see why not. Have them have their own house party and do their own thing. They can play games together, different kind of games. Maybe if you guys have cards and you guys do like goldfish together or go fish together. I never say that right. If you do like go fish together, like you have your stack, I have my stack. Do you have it too? No, go fish. Why can't they do that online? Like, they can totally handle that, and it's just as fun. It's just as interactive. It's just keeping one another safe. So that's my soup talk on that. So yes, any other good stuff? You guys are giving some good stuff today. This is also exciting. The other thing that I would say too about just the socialization thing, what I have found, or the online socializing for the kids, is just check in and pop in and make sure everything is going good. I made the mistake last week. I make mistakes. I make a lot of them. I made the mistake last week. Poor teacher Dorothy. I left Christian there with her. And he got up real bad. I think I found him on the floor. So just learn from my mistake. Pop in on your kid. Make sure that you don't kind of let them do their own little thing while you do your thing. I don't even know what I was doing, but it was a sad situation. That guy, he got in there and cut up on her, and he'd be doing stuff like, usually if she has him in arm's reach, then she can kind of get him and like reel him in. But he's smart enough to know, like, you're not here, and so if I don't want to do a high two and you keep telling me to do that, I don't have to do it. And that was a whole hot mess. So I'd love to hear more. How are you guys getting out there and like virtually hanging out? And what are you guys doing to make sure that you're virtually hanging out? And how's homeschooling going? Everybody's a homeschooler now. I'm used to homeschooling, so I knew what it was. The only thing that I miss is being able to go to the library and the museums. The Bay Area has so many science centers and museums, and we don't get to go to any of them. And we've been extremely creative, finding different ways to still enjoy those things. But I think those are the things that we miss the most. But how's everybody else doing out there with that? Is it going good? Is it going not so good? Are you guys finding that you're having to create some new norms? So I'd love to hear from your perspective, how that homeschooling, and again, how like having the kiddos virtually hang out is going. I actually had a virtual, my daughter had a virtual play date with a friend of mine's child. And they had a blast. I think they almost had more fun than we did. So we've been kind of learning how to create those norms around virtually hanging out. And we've been creating new norms on how to get them out. Oh, stir crazy? You're going stir crazy? Yeah. Is there anywhere walkable where you are? Do you guys have walkable? Oh, I can honestly say that I have a new respect for teachers. Yeah. Yeah. Teachers are powerful people and we take them for granted. I forgot. There's a country out there. It's still there. Don't listen to me. There's a country, and I forgot which one it is. The name slips my mind. If somebody knows it, please write it in the comments. But they hold teachers in the same esteem as they hold like doctors and lawyers, and they pay them the same there. And their teachers like are highly educated, and they have like one of the best records globally. I forgot where it is. Oh my gosh. But I watched a whole documentary on it, and those kids, they were woo-wee. Trying, tell me more about the new developmental play apps that you're trying. I'd like to hear about that. Online teaching my preschoolers and house party with my friends. My own kids are teens. We go for hikes. Ooh, lots of hikes. It is raining the next 3 days. Luckily, I went back curly, and so I'm gonna go on a hike. I don't care if it rains on me because I need to. I'm like you. I'm stir crazy as well. I can't be in the house for too long. It's a Nordic. It is one of the Nordic countries. The place that I'm talking about, where they hold the teachers in the same esteem. Can you do? Is that right? I don't know. But yeah, it is one of those Nordic countries. Like, their teachers are no joke out there. Like, we need to hold our teachers in that same esteem. Like, there's no reason not to. Those people work hard for what they do. And it's a lot of kids in these classrooms. And budget cuts are no joke. So, like, when this is all said and done, like, when the teacher asks for wipes, oh, you're using KinderPass. Okay. So when the teacher asks for wipes and they're sending home like that list, it's because they really need it. And when they're saying, read with your kid 5 to 10 minutes a day, they really, really need you to do that. And when they're asking you to like go over stuff and don't just let them sit in the corner and do their homework, like they really mean it. Like they do need your support. It does take a village, and we do need to hold our teachers in that same esteem. So the apps is KinderPass. What does KinderPass do? I've never heard of that one. There's so many out now that I just can't keep up. What does it focus on? Like things for you to do, or like developmental milestones? You said developmental play. I would say developmental play. I believe you have the 5-month-old. Developmental play really at this age is like taking the toys, seeing if they're tracking them, cause and effect kind of things, letting them hold on to them, shake them around. Teething is probably coming, so they're probably mouthing a lot of the toys, looking at them face to face and doing a lot of talking. If you haven't started already, giving them kind of like the belly time, and because their vision is still forming, and so like they're learning how to like still focus on things, and so giving them things that are visually stimulating is really, really good. So this app gives daily activities to meet current milestones. That's fun. I love that. That sounds fun. I'm gonna have to check it out and see what it's like. But yeah, like those are the things that you want to do. Hello out there. I saw you just pop in. So I would definitely, keep up with it. As long as it's not anything that seems like it's too out of reach and it doesn't feel like it's stressing you out, then I don't see why you shouldn't use that app. And if, you feel like, oh my gosh, like my baby's not doing X, like remember a lot of this stuff is a range. And also keep in mind that your baby learns, is focusing on one thing at a time, right? And so you're either working on gross motor or fine motor. Gross motor, big movements, if you can see that. Fine motor, little movements, bop, 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 right? The speech. And so with kiddos, they're either doing one or the other. They're very rarely focusing on like learning how to crawl and learning how to make sounds all at the same time. So you might notice 1 week, they might make a physical milestone. And then you might notice the next week that they're making a movement milestone. So don't get hung up on if they are, focused on one over the other. And some kids are naturally more more in alignment. Like they like to move. They like to kind of get around. They usually catch up with the speaking, and with the speech and language. But their movement, they might be more prone to movement. And then you might find that your child likes to talk a lot more. And if you have that kiddo who likes to talk a lot more, then they probably will be a little bit more sluggish with the movement, with the crawling and the walking. So my kids were, when they were that age, going through those milestones and everything happens really quick. We noticed with my daughter, she was an early talker and she kind of wasn't interested in movement. And then for my son, he was interested in moving, and he was interested in talking, but he was definitely more interested in moving than talking. And I think that he ended up being interested in talking because I stayed in his face talking to him and making him talk back to me, and you'd hear him that, and I'm, oh yeah, you're, yep, exactly that. And it's fun. So that's what I would say. Like, the milestones are, it's a recommendation, but don't get hung up on it. Like, don't, because everyone has kind of like a, they have like a gauge, I guess. They'll get there, unless it's starting to feel like they're not getting there. And you'll be able to gauge, like, that doesn't look right and that doesn't feel right, and I need to check into that and see what's going on. And then you just come and ask, and I'll tell you. And yes, you're my bestie too. I see that out there. Do you have any questions? Funny guy. So I think, yeah, that is my thought about the apps, and that's my thought about the educators who are out there, just making sure that, being really respectful of not only what they're doing, because you guys are now educators. All of you guys are educators. The best advice that I could give you is create a schedule. I've had people ask me and email me throughout the week, like, what is the best thing that I can do for my child right now? Because homeschooling is going X. And I would say the best thing that you can do right now, not just for them, but for yourself, is create some kind of schedule. Because it's really, really, really helpful to get through the day. And a question just came through. What does the research say about introducing little ones to ASL or a second or third language? It's totally healthy. I taught both of my kids sign language, and it's helpful now. I still use it with them. My son would not talk back to me in sign. My daughter would. She was signing, I think, at like 6 or 7 months. But I had a few classmates when I was in grad school who also had babies, and they started earlier than I did, and their babies were like 5 months using signs, and it was beautiful because you did not have to guess about what they wanted. So like milk, eat, sleep, more, all done, bye-bye. It was super helpful, and neurologically, that means like with your brain, they're able to make the connections with language a lot faster because they have that symbol there, right? So if you're saying more, then they make that connection that I don't have to have the word, but if I do this, mommy knows that I want more, especially if it's for something that's highly motivating and highly stimulating. They were like, they really help. And now, funny enough, I use them when I want my kids to stop something in public. I'll be like, stop. And nobody really knows what I'm talking about unless they speak sign. all done. Wait, you okay? Especially in violin. If Mahana doesn't like what's going on, she'll be like, it's okay. You'll be fine. We'll practice later. So, if somebody else out there was using it. So yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing about language. If you want to do other languages, because your little one is small, like now is the time. So the research behind that shows that kiddos who are 5 years old and younger who learn that second language early on, their language is a little bit delayed, but it ends up catching up by kindergarten. But their brains are so malleable at that point that they can learn multiple languages and it not be a problem. I had a client that I was treating at one time. I kid you guys not. One parent spoke Mandarin. The other parent spoke Cantonese. They spoke limited English, but they also were fluent in Spanish. And the baby knew all of the languages and he knew who to use them with. And so when I would come, he would use English with me when I would come and hang out with him. And then like when he talked to one parent, he would use one language and he would use the other language. So kids at that age, and he was only 2, kids at that age can pick up those languages because honestly, they don't know any different. And the brain hasn't quite gotten to a place to where it can't accept those languages. So my thing is, if you are going to speak multiple languages with your kiddo, make sure to speak a full English sentence. Don't mix another language in there with that. If you're going to speak Spanish or teach Spanish, speak a full Spanish sentence. Don't mix in any other languages. Don't commingle them because it confuses the language system. And the reason that it does that is because, remember, language is a symbol system. And so if I'm teaching you, or if we're speaking in English, we know that the noun comes before the verb. But if we start talking in any of the Romance languages, Spanish, French, Italian, the verb comes before the noun. And so when it's time to make that connection into reading, the kids are going to be looking for like that hodgepodge of what you've put together. But if you're extremely intentional and make sure that the English is English and the Spanish is Spanish, then they should be able to work that out. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I encourage you to do it because they are picking up on it. And my little ones, one does French, the other does Italian. I took Spanish for years, and so you can imagine how that goes. But I can pick up on some of the words in the other languages because the root words are the same. But the Christian will try to be funny and come talking to me in Italian, and I don't know what you're talking about, kid, but yeah, I don't know. As long as you're not saying anything foul, we should be good to go. So that is my answer around that. Like the research does support that you can teach foreign languages. Just make sure again that you are speaking one language at a time. And what I mean by one language at a time is just make sure that that sentence is fluent in that language. I hope that answers your question. So yes. And it's interesting about just language in general. And I know that especially in the Bay Area, like I hear a lot of everything. And in my field, I hear a lot of everything. I said I'm fluent. Like I'm 2-year-old fluent in a bunch of different languages because I hear so much, but I'm not past 2. I'm not past 2. And that's also my area that I specialize in. So it's funny when you learn that stuff. So that is my that's my take on that. Some upcoming stuff. My next podcast is coming out next week. We're wrapping up the Living With series. We're going to be talking about living with a sibling who has special needs. So that one will be really exciting. You know, we focused so much on parents who are living with these children, but I thought it would be really interesting for you guys to have a listen from the perspective of the sibling who is living in a house with a sibling who has a special need, and what's that like for them and their journey. And so after we wrap that up, we're going to be diving into tantruming. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then for this week, we're going to dive into homeschooling. I'm going to give some tools. I did a short podcast after week before last Q&A session, COVID-19 ain't stopping nothing. And that was just to like give some quick, dirty tools for you guys to know like what in the world is going on here. But this week I'm going to be a lot more intentional about providing like information and resources around homeschooling, and not just the day-to-day, but also having resources available and how to navigate those resources and how to navigate curriculum, especially if you don't have access. And then what if you don't love your child's curriculum? Because right now we're all homeschoolers, right? And so what you'll find is that maybe your child has been doing a curriculum and you don't love it. And so how do you supplement that? How do you make sure that they're still meeting their milestones? How do you even know what their milestones are? Like, what are they supposed to be doing academically, right? And so this week I'm going to try to get you guys information. If you guys have like specific questions around it, ask me, because then I can include that as the week progresses. I can include that in the information. But if you're not sending it to me, then I have no clue. But if you're sending it to me, then I can definitely take it into consideration. And remember that we're not an island. Like, even for me, I'm ending my first year of homeschooling, and I rely so much on my education coordinator to help me through the process. She has been an instrumental tool, connecting me to things and also reminding me of things that I would not have considered had I not bounced the idea off of her. And I've also learned that I don't need to be an island going into it. And I knew that going into it, but then still, mommies wear their capes. And so it's a different kind of feeling behind that. And really allowing my husband to be a part of it, especially because he's home now. He's home. If you're watching, Marcel, because you're home, I include you a lot more. But, playing on his strengths, like Christian doesn't want to do math with me anymore. Disrespectful, right? Been doing math with this kid all year. He don't want me no more. I'm not offended, but he's doing it with Marcel, and he's loving it with Marcel. And so we're allowing him to have that space, and just knowing that in the future, we probably need to let Marcel take the lead on that. Me and Mahana, we're good. We got our system. But just knowing when you need help, knowing to use the people around you. If you know you have like an engineer around, you probably need to be talking to them about maths and sciences. If you have, just go into like your vault, like you'd be surprised who you know and who's out there who would be a resource and who would love to share information, and things that is a struggle for you, or subjects that are a struggle for you may not be a struggle for them. So you might even be able to look at that. Thanks, Marcel, for that. So you may even have a community of people around you who can help around that. And I've even heard of homeschool groups, even before COVID-19, to where they would use the people who subspecialize in different areas as a tool to create curriculum around that subject specific area, and everybody does their part, and then it gets taught and they measure it, and it works. So I would say, like, use your community as much as you can around you, and show yourself so much grace, because again, like, homeschooling for you guys was not a personal choice. It was something that was kind of thrown at you, and so you haven't had like the time to kind of like wrap your mind around it. And just know, like, from my own personal experience, I needed at least a good month before I felt good about anything that I was doing. And I didn't have the added stressor of, oh my gosh, I have to be in the house all the time with my child. And so even with that, it took some time to really get comfortable with that. So just, show yourself some grace, show your child some grace, and just be comfortable with not knowing everything. And the stuff that you do know, and then the stuff that you don't know, believe me, you can't fake it with your kid. Like, they might not tell you to your face, but they know what you are knowledgeable around. And so, take this time to be intimate with them, and express to them, like, this is not my area. This is not my subject, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to try. It just means that this ain't my thing, but we're going to give it a good go, and we're going to make it happen. And so that would be my biggest piece of advice around that, is just create a schedule and make sure to show yourself a whole lot of grace. And for you parents who are high school parents, oh my gosh, if you have multiple high schoolers and they have all these advanced courses, please make sure to utilize online tools to help you along the way, and utilize people to help you along the way, because there's no reason, if you have 2 or 3 kids and they have 7 different subjects, there's no reason for you to be teaching 21 different subjects a day. Like, that's not even possible. That is a recipe for disaster. So again, make sure that you are tapping into the tools around you to really help, and make sure that you are feeling successful in what you're doing, and that you're kind of coaching and not feeling like you're at the forefront of things. So I hope that was helpful. Nobody necessarily asked, but I thought that I would throw that in there, because I know that this has been such an interesting time, and there is a lot going on at once. We have to deal with, being in the house and kind of being isolated, not even kind of being isolated. And we also have to deal with being new educators. And life is still happening, like real life is still happening. And so I want you guys to know, like, you're not alone. I'm definitely a resource to help you with the homeschooling piece as well, and not just with the speech, language, and play, the things that I normally kind of hit on, but I can also speak to the homeschooling experience based on my own personal experience and let you know where I've done really great and let you know, yep, had to, epic failed. So that is that. So if there's no other questions, I think we can end here. But if you do have any questions, now is the time to reach out and ask. But other than that, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. Remember to go ahead and catch up on the blogs. You can find that on my website at iheartspeechtherapy.com and search for blog, and you can get up. You can get updated on, or get updated on past blogs. They're released every week on Thursdays, so you can go ahead and check that out. Again, next week is the next podcast release, and another question came in. And then if you, I'll answer that question as well. And then as far as what else? What am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, the ebook is finished up, and so I believe that we'll start campaigning that, and I'm excited about that. So there's a lot of good things coming up, and I know that, again, we're being socially isolated and things are completely uncertain, but, the one thing that I am certain about is you're not alone. And the other thing that I am certain about is that you're not alone. And that you don't have to do this alone. And we're just going to have to find really creative, inventive ways to be intentionally a part of community. We had the option before to kind of ghost people, and now we're begging for people to be around. And so we just want to be mindful of that, be respectful to one another, be graceful to our children, show ourselves grace during this time. Nobody expects us to have all the answers, but just being willing to be humble and just take this for what it is, and make wise choices. We're not going to have to socially isolate forever, but this is a perfect time to really get in there, and learn your child, know your child, and just really be a part of their community and their learning, because it's a lot of fun and it's really rewarding. Like, since I started homeschooling, I thought I was close to my kids before, but now we're really close. Really close. And so it's a beautiful thing, and it's all in your attitude and what you make it. And I know you guys can make it beautiful. So I'm going to answer this question. My son has 4 AP classes. God bless you. It's a good thing he's a self-learner. He would be upset with me teaching him. That's not a question. That's funny. Yeah. And so, again, I don't know how, for the high schoolers and the middle school parents, like, my advice for you guys is to link up with other parents, link up with community around you. Again, a bunch of science sitters are offering courses and things to keep them stimulated. And that way, if your school hasn't quite gotten to curriculum yet or quite got things out, again, like I said earlier, different school districts have different, they're in different places, right? And so if you don't have the curriculum at this time, take advantage of like science centers and museums. There's even some zoos that you can watch in real time. Like, your kids can easily write a quick expository essay on that. Like, that's not a big deal. Like, have them write about that. We've gotten into, even before COVID-19, we've gotten into reading the newspaper. Yes, newspapers still exist. And so I'll have my kiddos read a newspaper article, and we'll read it together, and then we'll have them write about it or speak to that. So there's like all kinds of different ways that you can make sure that they're still learning, that they're still progressing, and that they're still getting amazing things. And you have so much more to impart on them than what you think you do. It's just, again, wrapping your mind around this is really happening, and just putting yourself in a place to where you are all squared away and set up. So, all right, guys, I think that's it. If there's nothing else for today, you guys be safe, be healthy, be well. Remember, catch up on past podcast episodes, catch up on blogs. They're coming out every week. So next Sunday, no Q&A, but next Sunday will be the podcast. So every other week. And I think I'm going to start being more intentional about putting a calendar out so it won't confuse the system of which week is what. So one Sunday is a podcast release, and then the next Sunday is live Q&As. So it gives you that time in between to where you can respond to the podcast question, or the podcast topic if you want to respond to that. And you can also respond to the blog if you have follow-up. Thank you so much. That was sweet. And so you can follow up with that. If nothing else, until the next time, everyone, take care.